Alright, so we should be back up streaming soon. Let's see if it comes live again. Ooh, starting. Starting. Huh. There's some options here that I want to change. Maybe I can't because we're live. So might have to switch to Twitch in the future. Yes. Do you see our stream? I finally got you added back in.
Yes.
There he is. Little crop going on. Cool. Oh yeah, I see us. Nice. So next time, I think we should just get on here earlier and try to figure it out. There wasn't much time this time.
Yeah.
So did that guy join earlier?
He was there for a bit, and I haven't seen him again in the chat. So I don't know if he left or something, or if he somehow got lost in like the the stream being updated a few times. But yeah, I haven't seen
Okay.
him again.
So you didn't have any interaction.
I chatted with him and I was like, "Hey," and that was it. And I said like we're getting things set up.
Yeah. This is not our finest technical moment. Poor guy. I think it's very early over there where... Well, I'll be right back.
Yeah, the U.S. is like it's like 4 a.m., 2 a.m. right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Someone just signed up.
Whoa.
Maybe they'll see the alert. Yeah, weird. Like active users right now, it's still at 1, and I mean I have the workspace open, so I wonder how accurate that thing is. Here we go, active users 2. Maybe it's accurate. I just interacted with the page again. I wonder how active you have to be to become an active user in Google Analytics.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Maybe you
good
literally have
question.
to be interacting with it.
No idea. Well, we got two people watching. They're us. Those two people are us. So we're
Yeah,
here.
there was. Are you still fiddling around with the setup?
Yeah. I am setting up a second scene. thing, add that, add that. Look at that. Two of us. Much larger. I know it's laggy, but it should pick up that I changed to a different scene where we're both much larger in the frame. So in the future, assuming we can get the streaming to work, do you want to just do it like...
They're back.
Oh yeah? Is there someone in the chat? Great. Good, good, good. Yeah, we've had some very serious technical difficulties. But it seems to be working out, yeah. I think the big thing was just YouTube's UI was very confusing. Not to, like, it's on us. We should figure this out. But that's the reason why it was harder to figure out.
So I think this is probably our only attendee for now.
Yeah.
It's really weird watching the video which is lagged. I'm gonna pull the chat out and not watch the video.
Yeah, don't watch that video. The lag is too great. But unfortunately, I'm looking at well, I can put this on our stream so it's available for everyone to see. If I switch scenes, put us down there, and bring back. Where's that one? Yep. So it'll appear on the stream, but I can't actually set the stream to ultra low latency now that it's created. So next time we stream, I need to set that. But for this one, we're just at low latency, which seems to be adding, what, 2 seconds or so? Unfortunate. Bring back scene 2. Scene 2. Here we are. Big on screen. What's up?
Do you feel like you're good with the setup? Do you think that, or are you still messing around with it?
No, I'm fine now. I unfortunately can't change the settings in YouTube anymore, and I think that's because we already created the stream. But assuming we can change those in the future, then we're good. I added a different scene so that when we're not displaying anything, we can have our own faces be larger. That's pretty much it. And there's no browser open.
Cool.
Yeah, so in the future, do you... Cool, well, if PMB, if you want to ask us anything, feel free. Otherwise, we're kind of chatting about in a very meta chat. So yeah, Sean, do you want to just do this in the future where we kind of just show up and hang out here and chat until anyone joins, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Um, I don't know. We can see how this goes for the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes for the scheduled time, and we can think about what we should do in the future. We could talk unless DMV asks any questions. We could talk about so like that PR I made. Uh, I noticed there's like some problems with the test environment. Like somehow, if we have like, okay, here we go. It would be great if you guys can select a topic. I have a very broad goal, trying to complete lessons, but it's not consistent. How do you maintain a routine to develop skills?
Good question, Sean. How did you learn? How did you develop your routine?
For me personally, when I was learning, I was also kind of working through a lot of these like similar kind of series of projects or challenges, kind of curriculums that I found online. And I think that it helped me to have these curriculums that were kind of built around accomplishments. So like rather than having like some video courses where essentially like completing them would be watching the videos. If you're working on like a more of a project-based curriculum, then completing them is more about like accomplishing or completing the projects. And for me, that was like a, a, a good way to stay motivated because I wanted to like actually see these projects. I wanted to actually like complete all these challenges and then actually like start to build up a portfolio where I could show these projects. And so for me, that was like part of it. Kind of this sense of like working on actually achieving things instead of more of this like passive style of learning where you're kind of just like consuming content and you may also be learning. I definitely did that as well. But in terms of like staying motivated consistently, I think having this sense of trying to build up a portfolio of projects was really useful for me.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense to me too, because I think we're both self-taught. So we both went through this, and we did it in different ways. We didn't know each other back when each of us were learning programming. The the thing I would recommend to add on to that is just consistency. And this applies to anything you're trying to learn, but let's just use our example here because I'm a big this like super OBS power user now. I'll just switch scenes and look at our app. So consistency meaning just do the thing over and over again on a regular basis. If I'm going to use our app as an example, one way to do that would be say like do one challenge a day. That's it. You can do more if you want to, but like the more important than actually doing any number of these is like you just do one, or even if that ends up if you like miss a few days, if that ends up being too much, you could say just I'm gonna open the app, and that's it. You've completed your goal. And I say this from the perspective of you kind of just want to like get over the friction hump. You want to get over what your mind is seeing as the hard problem, which is like I need to learn all these things. If you have a really broad goal, you probably have a goal that's not necessarily well defined in terms of like I can do A today, I can do B tomorrow, I can do C the next day, and eventually I'll get there. So it's just small steps. Another example of how this might work is so if you want to develop an exercise habit, rather than say I'm going to exercise X amount per day, you can just say I'm going to literally go to the gym. That's it. I'm not even gonna. You don't even have to touch any of the weights. You just go to the gym and you leave. And so that's what I'm trying to get at is the way to do consistency is to give yourself like the smallest possible goal and then just hit that consistently, and eventually the rest just falls into place. At least that was my experience.
There's also another thing that I did that I found to be pretty helpful, which is that I was trying to learn a lot of programming topics in a pretty short amount of time. And the thing is, even if you are pretty comfortable and experienced programming, you can't just sit around and write code all day long. There is like a limit to like how much you can do. And so when I was learning, I kind of developed these like different areas of like focus or like learning where like some of it I was spending time like actually writing code and solving problems and building projects. But there was a lot of these other kind of styles of learning as well. So for example, doing like these kind of online tutorial videos or maybe watching videos on YouTube or maybe listening to coding podcasts, and the topics could be very different. For example, maybe you're watching like some kind of conference video from a tech conference where they're talking about some new technology or some new library or something like this, or maybe you're watching a video where they're literally walking you through how to use something. So there's a lot of like different angles in terms of like what you can approach in terms of learning, and they're very different, and the mediums are different as well. You could also like find uh, like written tutorials or even books about programming. There were even some books that I read. And so all of these different like learning mediums were essentially different ways of continuing to progress and like build more skills. And for me, like the point I'm trying to make is I would switch between these kind of different learning styles depending on how motivated I was and how like focused I was. And if I was feeling super burned out from programming for like a few hours, maybe I would leave and go for a bike ride and like listen to a podcast or like go and watch some videos. And because I was shifting the learning style, I was able to, I think, do more consistently over time, and also avoid getting burned out. So that was also something that I found to be pretty helpful when I was learning.
Yeah, second that. Context switching, intentional context switching is great. The another example, just to give more examples, I guess to make this more concrete, is when I was learning programming, I was also trying to learn Chinese at the same time, and those are so different that it was a good way to do context switching. I would try to learn some programming, try to do some exercises, and then go try to learn some Chinese, and it was just completely different. So if you can do that with your day job too. If you have a day job or you have this thing that you generally do, which isn't programming, you can just program for a while. You'll get your brain absorbs a bunch of the information, or it just absorbs a little, but you'll get the wheels spinning, and then just go do something else. It sort of ties on to the Pomodoro technique, if you ever heard of that, where you intentionally insert breaks to give your mind a break. But I definitely agree that you can do other things. You can just you can watch Netflix, or you can do other productive stuff too, like I said, study language or your day job. It doesn't have to be productive or unproductive. It just has to be different than programming.
Yeah.
Yeah. One day. What's interesting about doing this with chat is I have no idea if comment. Oh, you came to the right place. We have a resident expert here, Mr. Sean Smith, blockchain extraordinaire. No joking though. I just joke because I make fun of Sean and other friends. But yeah, what about blockchain, Sean?
So I can answer. So I'm working on Pairwise, but I'm also working for a blockchain startup right now, and I'm not totally sure like in what direction being focused solely on blockchain means. But if it was to say like being focused on like blockchain programming or opportunities related to blockchain in terms of programming, I mean there's substantially a large number of these type of things. There's a lot of blockchain projects which are essentially trying to launch new blockchains now, so they're doing a lot of programming to like develop a new blockchain kind of application. And then there's also a ton of people building applications and products on top of blockchain right now. So there's basically like almost unlimited opportunities for people who wanted to be involved in blockchain from a programming side. And a lot of those would be pretty accessible via Pairwise. There's a lot of people who are building like apps and kind of like user-facing tools and technologies and products for regular people to interact with blockchain technologies and for regular people to get involved. And so there's huge kind of surface area of things there. And then there's the core like blockchain technology itself, which is like very intense in terms of like the programming that's going on there. So yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount of kind of opportunities in blockchain in terms of programming. So it would depend on what the question was exactly, kind of the direction it's talking about, because there's also a lot of interesting kind of aspects of blockchain that are less related to the programming side. But yeah, definitely a lot going on there, a lot of cool things.
Yeah. Or yeah, another way to get into blockchain, put your entire savings on Bitcoin. Classic move. Oh, cool. So for PMV and anyone who watches this recording later, I know very little about blockchain. Sean is an expert, so Is Shauna, is Solidity the thing that people use if you want to like write smart contracts, or is there something else?
Solidity is basically the language that people kind of use to write smart contracts for Ethereum, which run on the EVM. And so that's pretty big because Ethereum is the largest successful smart contract platform right now. And so a lot of these smart contracts that exist, they've been written in Solidity and they're running on Ethereum. A lot of the other blockchains that have been developed, which are not Ethereum, many of them are trying to essentially also support EVM kind of smart contract technology. So essentially, a lot of these other platforms will be able to run EVM code just like Ethereum can. So that's definitely, yeah, you could definitely, there's a huge potential for essentially learning Solidity. And I mean, that's, probably less, like basically 4 to 5 years old at most. So there's very few people in the world who are going to be able to have a lot of confidence in writing smart contracts with Solidity. So there's definitely a field there. But then the PMV is mentioning also about DeFi and learning how to create. I would say for learning how to create, maybe check out this thing called Cosmos SDK, which is basically what the Cosmos blockchain project has used to kind of create and launch the Cosmos blockchain. But the Cosmos SDK allows you to basically bootstrap a new blockchain application and kind of use these like fundamental pieces that the Cosmos kind of project has built. And so you can essentially launch a new blockchain, but build some kind of custom application logic on top of it. So yeah, the SDK definitely tells you kind of what that is, but that's kind of concept. But it's a pretty cool thing. And so there's a few other blockchains that have launched using the Cosmos SDK, and they've become pretty successful. So for example, there's this one called Terra, which is running in South Korea, and they're basically trying to solve a lot of this like payments kind of problems with a blockchain. And they actually have like a lot of adoption, they have a lot of users right now. So yeah, and they're mentioning trading parity. So the PMB definitely knows a lot about what's going on, it looks like. And then yeah, DeFi is definitely a really hot topic right now. There's a lot of people doing DeFi stuff. And a lot of the DeFi is also built on Ethereum. So again, there you're going to have a lot of relevance for Solidity and kind of understanding how smart contract programming works.
Yeah, is it true? I don't really know. Solidity is sort of like JavaScript in its whole syntax and such. Like, what's TypeScript / JavaScript as a path to Solidity? What do you think about that?
I haven't really done very much Solidity programming at all, so I don't have a lot of kind of knowledge about Solidity. So to be honest, I'm not really sure.
Fair. Yeah. What do you say? Oh yeah, he said, "Can we record the progress on the blockchain?" Yeah, we could, but I think it'd be a not a great use of the blockchain, since you can just use a centralized database for that.
Yeah, but that's actually kind of interesting because one application for blockchains would be essentially to record things like completing Pairwise. So for example, if someone completes Pairwise, or maybe it's slightly more relevant, if someone completes like a university program and they get a diploma, the proof of them doing it is essentially having that diploma. But otherwise, there's definitely instances where people have said like, oh, I have these credentials, but they're just making it up. And so how can you actually essentially prove that? Well, you could have some blockchain which essentially has these credentials on it, and so the university has the power to like grant these grant a diploma to someone, and so that person would then, if they actually have the diploma, they could just present proof of that, and then you would be able to believe it. So this is one kind of application of blockchain which I think is pretty interesting.
It's great.
I mean, otherwise, I think to check, you basically have to go and try to find evidence of that person actually attending school, right? In terms of like email address, or they have like they have their picture in a book somewhere or whatever. But yeah.
Sorry, can you say that again? I couldn't catch you, which means it's probably also not going to get through to the recording.
I was just basically saying like one interesting application of blockchain is essentially using it as a proof of someone completing some specific thing. For example, like a university program, or here Pairwise,
yeah.
Where you could basically say like the entity could then confer like the diploma to someone, and then they can present proof of that, and then that you can believe that that means that they actually completed the program. Whereas otherwise, right now, people can claim like, oh, I completed Pairwise, or oh, like I have a master's degree from Harvard, or whatever, and they can claim that, and if they just put that on their LinkedIn or put that on their resume, maybe it's not true. And a lot of times people don't really check these things; they just kind of read it and they believe it. So, so essentially, one of the ideas for a useful application in blockchain is exactly this. It's creating like a better way to prove that you've actually completed it.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. So it could essentially just replace or augment credentialing as a concept.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think, Sean? About the
So I've heard about some. I don't know the name of it, but so the idea of using blockchain for like charity or nonprofit use cases is also like really compelling, because you essentially have a lot of funds going into charities or nonprofits, and then they essentially have these funds, and they can start to do whatever they want with it. And then you essentially have to rely on them to transparently like communicate to the public what they've done with those funds. And so with blockchain, if this was essentially recorded on a blockchain in some way, then it's fully transparent. And so then there's like a lot less room for people to misuse the money or misuse the donation. And so I heard about some technology or some project that was trying to apply blockchain in the space of like charities and philanthropy. I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head, but it's just like definitely like another use for applying blockchain in the real world, and it's very interesting. In fact, you could have something where you could donate to a charity, and then you could very transparently see like what they did with the money that you donated. Yeah, and I mean, if you're talking about just tracking your donations to various charities, I'm not sure in what capacity exactly, but if the charities actually accepted crypto, then I mean, all of that information will be tracked by basically just the transaction you send from one account to various charity accounts.
Oh, I can use this. The unexpected blockchain conversation to to promote our buddy, Mr. Julian. We can, if I have that.
Yeah, you should do that.
Let me just make sure this is the right link. Yeah. So I'll PMB. I'm going to drop a link in here. This is a YouTube channel that's run by one of our personal friends, actually, someone who we know in real life, and who's also very much into blockchain, and who is also a self-taught programmer. So channel might be of interest. Yeah. Maybe this just maybe our Pairwise live sessions just kind of spiral and or pivot into like a blockchain podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Nice. Oh. No, we have like a poor tracking of things, right? Because ideally we would know if we got any referrals from Julian, but we have no idea. Cool. Yeah. Good for Julian. We'll have to let him know next time I see him. Gotta buy that guy a beer. yeah, feel free to ask us anything you want, or just chat about whatever, or just kind of stay silent too. Whatever you want to do. We're also like we're on our computers, so we're doing other stuff at the same time. I'm currently looking
So
at. Sorry. Go ahead.
Binance has this Binance charity thing where basically kind of the concept I just explained, like it's basically what this is. That they have this kind of charity organization, and everything they're doing is transparently reported. So it could be interesting to look at that. Binance is a pretty cool company.
Hmm. Sean, you use Zoom, right? Oh, there's a question. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about. We can get back to it. I think our connection, yours and mine, and thus the connection that people see on the stream, is not great. So I was going to say let's try a different app other than Slack. But anyways,
Okay.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about programming is that, well, among other interesting things, is that no matter how much you learn, there's always more of the technical mountain to climb, and it's not a bad thing. I remember specifically someone who helped get me into programming said every 3 months you're going to look back and you're going to think, what was that guy doing? Like, well, this code is just terrible. And you look at your code from 3 months ago, and that was absolutely true. Every 3 months, I felt like I was a programmer. Like now I'm a programmer. I understand things, and then 3 months later, I'd look back and say, wow, I knew nothing. And so it's very weird that way, that you can both feel like you know a lot of stuff, and at the same time, one, you actually don't, and two, you'll know that you don't in pretty short order, in just a few months. And so that definitely decreases. These days, I don't feel like I have become a 10x better programmer every 3 months, but for the first year or so, I think you really get that. And so to answer your question, which I didn't really, for me, I think it was maybe 6 months until I felt like I knew some things. I also knew that I wasn't great, but about 6 months. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, for me, I would say I would distinguish just having a kind of basic like fundamental grasp of programming versus essentially being able to build or work on more of the real world applications that most like teams or startups are actually working on. Because the fundamental programming basics, like essentially understanding how to write, or basically understanding how to do specific things with the programming language. There's a lot of like important concepts and like kind of a way of thinking you have to learn to do that. And you also have to pick up all the syntax and like the kind of the hands-on skills for using a particular language. And that takes some time. But once you get a strong basis in that, like those fundamentals, most of what you continue to move on and do later is still going to be working off of that basic foundation to a large degree. And for me, I would say like it's probably like 5 or 6 months before I felt like I had a pretty strong understanding, and I could just essentially like, okay, I need to do this or that, and I can just write some code and I can do that. Or maybe I need to look up one thing, but I know exactly what I need to look up, and it takes me, 30 seconds to look this up, and then I can carry on. So I think it probably took me like roughly half a year to kind of get a strong grasp of those fundamentals, and then it probably took me like a total of like 12 months to go like the next step to having this foundation of like, okay, this is how you actually build real world applications where this is like something that could actually be a product or service that is supporting a company. because with that you have to learn all of these other additional aspects that are kind of on top of this basic layer of programming. And so that took me probably another roughly 6 months, I think, to kind of to learn all of that. And yeah, so it definitely takes a while. There's quite a lot to learn. But at the same time, there's some of these like really fundamental things that can take you a long way.
Your other question about templates and scripts, if I'm going to just interpret what you mean, I'm not entirely sure what you mean, but by templates maybe just like pieces of code that you can copy paste or just have appear inside your editor. That it reminds me very vividly of when I was first starting to program. I used a program called Dreamweaver. Maybe you've heard of it already. It used to be pretty popular, but maybe you haven't. It was like a visual editor for websites, sort of like if Microsoft Word was creating websites. That's what Dreamweaver did, and it also let you just write code. But I remember trying to not write code or trying to use its editing tools to like generate code for me, and ultimately that didn't last long because it just doesn't work. You have to be in there writing basically all the code yourself. And if you write something 20 times, then yeah, you can create a macro or a template for it. But generally, so I'm not sure if this is exactly what you're asking, but there's definitely a level of comfort that you achieve with just writing code and the syntax, and the program, they'll work more and more often, and eventually you just feel like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Oh no. Sean dropped. Mr. Sean. Sorry, I will get back to the chat in a second, but I gotta see about Sean. Why did that connection drop? Hey, can you hear me? Are we connected again?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we could also try Zoom. I don't know if it's a Zoom Slack thing. I don't know if it'd be any better, but Slack seemed to get slower when we first started. It was great.
Yeah, I'm not sure. One thing I can say about like do you use templates or scripts? When I was learning, I did basically like when I was learning some new syntax or some new like specific thing that I would have to like type out a lot, I would actually deliberately like force myself to type it over and over again until I kind of internalized what it was. Because sometimes a lot of the syntax is like weird or arbitrary, and once you like learn how some of the syntax is, you just learn it once, and then you're to go. But it does kind of take a minute at first to like learn what it is. And for me, I found that just like forcing myself to type it out was the best way to do that. And then like later on, I would then create like maybe like these like snippets or whatever. I could just like pre-fill some syntax that I used very often. But I would first go through and like actually like force myself to write it multiple times before I would do that. And that helped me to learn it because it helped me like internalize like what the code was, like how it was written and what it was supposed to do a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. It's something that you do even if you don't do it intentionally. Like anyone who ends up doing programming quite a bit, you're gonna write tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of lines of code eventually. So you're gonna get tons and tons of repetitions doing this, and you can sort of speed up the process of acclimation if you just jump into it. Like Sean said, actually force yourself to write a bunch of these, like write 54 loops in a row and then go do something else. To your earlier question, PMV, I just thought of something, an actual concrete. So you asked how long until you felt comfortable programming. I will say concretely, how long it took until we felt comfortable is maybe subjective, so it's hard for us, even in our own memory, to answer that. But it took me 6 months before I actually made some money programming. So it was a nice hard number. I would say within 6 months you can make some side income. Not that that's necessarily what you do or what you want to do. Maybe you have completely different goals, but it's It's a metric you can use to say I'm good enough to make money. So once you start making money, when someone's paying you, you really feel it. You emotionally feel, yes, I'm capable of doing this. I should really buy this camera application. It keeps on flashing this like watermark on my screen.
Yeah.
This is the test, and the test succeeded. So I will spend money on it and remove the watermark.
Nice.
It's quite nice to see our live session UI working. I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not...
So another question.
Oh, cool.
Another question showed up. Is there a reason why code is not written on one line rather than 3 lines?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean, actually. Sean, what do you think? I was going to say let's open Sandbox and we can just write something, but...
Yeah, maybe you can do that. I'm not really sure what the question is either, but one thing that way to kind of answer it is that code is kind of different in the sense of like when we're working on it as programmers and versus the state that it's in when it's actually being run by. So whether it's written on like 30 lines or 1 line, it doesn't really matter probably at the point where it actually gets executed on a computer. And in most cases, a lot of code, it gets processed through like various other tools or it gets compiled before it actually gets run by a computer. So most of the code, the version of code that we see when we're actually writing it and editing it is kind of this like modified, like more stylized version, which makes it easier for us to read and kind of think about. And so in that regard, a lot of the ways that it's written or formatted, mostly they just come down to kind of arbitrary like stylistic guidelines, and there may not really be a specific reason behind it one way or the other. And so now Ian has the editor open here.
Yeah, I'm just putting everything online to kind of demonstrate that it's hard to read. What Sean is saying, absolutely, it's all about us as humans. The computer can understand it just fine. Computers are really good at that. But we as humans have a lot more trouble reading, like interpreting something like if we're looking at the styles of this file and you ignore these human formatted styles down here after line 8 and you look at this line, on this top line, we have a whole bunch of styles, but it's not, one, they're off screen, we can't actually see them, so there's the whole aspect of visual space. And you'll be both limited by your screen size in terms of up and down. So usually we try to like put it in a scrollable column. But if I have to go look at this way, then I have to go over here. And even things like where you have a bracket ending and the dot, the period, which is to signify a class name, where that starts. Especially if I'm not familiar with CSS, like I might think this is some sort of different syntax, or you might not know what's going on here. It's just a bit less obvious, I think. So that's the answer is it's for humans, the whole white spacing. And it's sort of stylistic, even artistic. A lot of programmers have different ways of writing, but then some of us just say, I want it to look consistent. And so we add things like a format code button, which does exactly what you see. it puts it all in, a bunch of different lines. Yes, humans. Humans are not good at processing large amounts of digital data. Yeah, it can be. If it makes sense to you, like there are so many levels to this. If something makes sense to you, then generally go with it. But then the next level is, if something makes sense to you but not your team, then you might run into problems. But that's only if you have a team. If you're just writing code for yourself, then if it makes sense to you, that's generally good. However, the other thing to remember is that your future self is not your present self. You can think of them as different people, because your future self might come back and look at your code and think, what was this guy thinking? What was this person writing? And it happens a lot. I've certainly had this happen many times where I look at code from the past and I have no idea what was going on. And of course you can figure it out. You read the code, you load it back into your own memory, you figure out what was going on. But if you write code that is well formatted by your own subjective standard, usually it's easier for you to remember what was going on. And so you ultimately save your future self significant time if you write code that you think is easy to read, but in a consistent way, not just easy to read right now, or not just easy to type.
Yeah.
Let's take this. I want to take that. TypeScript. Yes. Love it. Let's see how our browser console handles new lines. I don't remember actually. All right, I need to call that. Cool, that works great. In session. So Sean, the reason I was saying earlier that it would be nice to be able to do screen share is that then I could just flip over to you and you could drive if there's anything you want to show on screen.
Gotcha. Yeah, that could be helpful, but potentially in other cases, yeah.
Yeah, it probably doesn't matter right now.
Yeah.
Yep, nailed it. How'd you know? Just time zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Yeah, we were trying to. We were trying to figure out when to do this, and 4:30 just seemed fine. What about you, PMB? If you don't mind sharing, obviously. If you don't if you don't want to talk about it, obviously no worries. But what kind of stuff do you do that's not programming? Really, what's driving your interest? Is it just blockchain or what? Would it be too early? I talked to people in Europe around this time, earlier actually. So I guess it just depends on the person. Let's see what time it is there. Yeah, that would be 9:30 a.m. in London. We're also thinking that during this time that I guess this would, depending on where you are, this could be in the middle of the day for some people or in the morning, but late enough that people are probably at work. We're also thinking maybe with everyone working from home that it would still be possible for people to chime in. But yeah, this is the first time, so we will definitely tweak the time zones, I would think. Yeah. Yeah, a night owl. Oh. Come on, OBS. Why did it drop Sean? That's not what I wanted. Yep. It's just gone. Hey, there you
are. Yeah, he says his background is in product management and project management. That's definitely like a really important side for kind of software development, and it's tricky because when I was learning, I didn't really have any knowledge about like how a lot of the software process is kind of driven by this like project management side. So I think it's like a pretty important part to like learn. You are going through your process of learning how to code. But I think a lot of people don't really know very much about it. So it's cool if you're coming in with already a lot of knowledge about like that side of things, and then probably through that you have like a decent understanding of what the software side looks like, at least from the outside. Whereas like for me starting out, I had both of these were like a big kind of unknown area for me.
Yeah, and if you enjoy product management or it's something you want to continue doing, learning programming will really helps you manage products, because you can see it from the side of building it as well as the side of managing it. And as you've probably seen from your work, it can be very different. Engineers often push back on things that product people don't understand, or engineers want to do something, and from the product side it just doesn't make sense. And now you get to see what all those disagreements are about from both sides instead of just one. What are things that engineers like that product people rightfully say, let's not do this? Rewriting the code base. Lots of refactoring for
all kind of technical stuff that doesn't have a clear product impact. Like, oh, we need to do 6 weeks to incorporate this new technology so we can scale better or whatever.
Yeah, and we have like 10 users and they're growing at a at a rate of 1 per week. You're like, we don't need scale.
And then like vice versa, all of the requests coming from product side, which are more or less like trying to build a better product, or like create a better experience. But the engineers hear this and they immediately think of like complexities like A, B, and C that are going to be like you're going to have to deal with if you try to build a feature like that. And they start immediately getting like super nervous and like, okay, maybe not. Like, I don't know if we can do that. And they start making up other reasons why we don't want to do that, because they have like more context on this like technical side of it. And they're more wary about like implementing things which could create more technical costs in the future.
Yeah.
So it's a nice balance.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice when you do, if you have both sides of it. So what's your schedule today, Sean? We are at an hour and a half right now. So we can just hang out. We can check out. We can schedule another session for any time. Could be tomorrow. Could be in a week.
I think we probably want to wrap up soon, and we could potentially try to do another session next week. Maybe with your like the change you made to the live session in the UI. If we have that like the preview, that new state more visible before it happens, maybe more people will see it. And so we could give it another go next week. What do you think?
I think I want to do more of it actually, and it doesn't have to be both of us. It can be just one of us. I'm thinking if we're gonna treat this like office hours, it'd be nice if I actually don't even remember when my actual professors in college held out office hours, but it was at least like twice a week, I think. I'm just thinking, since we're usually at our computers anyways, and as long as there's like an audio blip or any sort of notification that someone's in the chat room, we could just open this up and work on whatever we're working for, and just kind of have an hour here, an hour there, where we're available. Even if no one shows up, it's just we have more availability, and having the icon light up in the UI will hopefully raise a bit of awareness that this even exists, because I don't think anyone's ever going to click on that thing unless it lights up.
Yeah.
Also, we gotta fix this latency thing. I feel like we're, I don't know, like a minute backed up here. Come on, YouTube.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I guess we could find out. I have my sound muted on our stream.
Me too. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think we're probably going to wrap up here now, it looks like. But yeah, thanks for coming, PNB. You're definitely one of the most active users. So it's been really good to kind of have some interaction with you, and thanks for the feedback you've given us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. If you find yourself in the comment section on one of Julian's videos, say hi. We'll let him know. We'll let him know that someone came from his site. Cool. Shall we sign off? I can just
Yes. So Ian, should we wrap up? And then,
yeah. Let's sign off, and we can.
Yeah.
I'll stop the live stream, and we can still hang out in the. I mean, I'll still hang out in the chat room for maybe another like 10 minutes or something in case PMB wants to say anything else. But I'm gonna stop the live stream.
Okay.
All right, live stream.